What's going on, guys? Josh here from Momentum Productions, and today I'm going to be showing you how I got a lot of my favorite shots while I was away for vacation up in New Zealand. Now, if you didn't watch last week's video, I strongly suggest that you check it out right here because I talk about all of the equipment I took with me when traveling. Now, before we get started in this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications turned on. Hopefully this video will teach you the right mindset so whenever you go traveling, you know exactly when to pull out your camera and capture something. My first rule of thumb is never stop pressing the record button. Make sure that your camera is always rolling because you never know what's gonna hit you. And especially when you're traveling, it's difficult for you to get the same shot more than once. So make sure that that camera is rolling. Which brings me back to my original video of this 3-part series where I talk about what equipment to buy, and you should definitely get a ton of SD cards, and I'll link some in the description box below, but SD cards are everything. Make sure they're fast enough for your 4K camera and keep them in a memory card wallet. There were so many different shots I captured in New Zealand that I tried to make BTS shots, so they weren't necessarily going to be in my travel video, but I just want to have some shots of me walking through a train and just like hiking and walking around. Not too interesting of shots, but I still wanted it just in case I want to use that as some of my BTS roll footage. One of the main shots that I'm going to be using in my travel video is the shot of the cruise ship that I was sailing on. This is the Golden Princess by Princess Cruises, and this shot was very difficult to get. Because of this ship's size, a lot of the ports in New Zealand couldn't have it come up to shore. So we had to dock in the bay, and then we took smaller lifeboats or tenders all the way to shore. Now, I was not able to bring a drone with me on the cruise, so that was completely out of the question. So I had to think to myself, what would be a great way to capture a nice dynamic shot of the ship without using a drone? Then it hit me. As soon as I board one of these lifeboats, I would take out my gimbal, my Sony A9, shoot on my 16 to 35mm lens, and get this shot. It actually came out a lot better than I thought. And there were some tricks that I used to ensure that I would get this shot properly. Sometimes it looks good in camera, but if you put it on your computer, things might be very shaky, and slow-mo does a great job of stabilizing a lot of these shots. I was shooting with my Sony A9 and my 16 to 35mm Zeiss lens. I was actually shooting in ASPC mode, otherwise known as the 1.6 crop mode, and I was able to get close enough to the ship to get that shot that I really wanted. And if you take a closer look at the shot, you can see that it's kind of a quarter orbit shot, so we get those dynamics. And I was using my zhiyun Weeble Lab gimbal right here. If you want to watch my first impressions video on it, click this link right here and you can see everything you need to know about this gimbal. Great gimbal, great for travelers. But anyway, besides the point, I used that gimbal, my 16-35 Zeiss lens, and my Sony A9, shooting at 120 frames per second, and I was able to get the shot. You need to make sure that you get the shot, and one of the best ways that I've learned over years and years of shooting is to shoot at higher frame rates just so you can smooth out some of those bumps that you may not see directly in camera. Now, this next shot here, I boarded a train, and this train would take me up into the mountains of New Zealand. Now, I don't recommend that you do this, but I did, and I'm so happy that I did. I actually was kind of dangling off of the train in order to get some of the shots that I got. Full disclaimer, I don't recommend that you do this. I did it at my own free will, obviously, and I just wanted to do it to get the shots. I don't know if I'm ever gonna come back to New Zealand, definitely on my bucket list, but anything can happen. So make sure that if you're out traveling, get the shots. That way when you come back home, you're not gonna regret it. But again, full disclaimer, make sure that you're not in harm's way when you're doing this stuff. The next shot is probably one of my most favorite shots that I actually captured. And this was when the ship was first approaching New Zealand. I quickly ran to the bow of the ship and we were approaching a place called Fiordlands, and it's all this beautiful hilly area surrounded by lots and lots of ocean. So I wanted to add some symmetry into this shot, and as you can see here, we have the flag from the bow of the ship separating these two areas of the Fiordlands, and we had a giant rock/island in the middle of the shot. The exposure was great. I love the reflection of the mountains in the water, and everything just looked fantastic. I was so happy with this shot. If you need to get up early to get the shot like I did, get up early. Get up as early as you can, all right? Set that alarm. You got to push yourself. I'm not a morning person. I woke up at 5 a.m. to get the shot, which is actually not that early for most filmmakers, but for me, it's tough. 5 a.m., got up, didn't eat breakfast, ran to the bow of the ship, and got the shot. I was very lucky. And if you notice, the shot is extremely steady, not because I was hand-holding it, but because I was using a gimbal. I wanted this shot to be basically static on the camera's end. I wanted all of the movement to come from the actual water and the movement of the ship. I wanted to make sure that the camera was fixated on the scene and not doing anything else. I also recorded the shot for a solid 2 minutes straight, just in case anybody bumped into me. I wanted to make sure that I had at least 5 to 10 seconds of clean footage. And that's another great tip. Always shoot more than you need, even if it's just a static shot. And specifically for travelers, you never know, you might see some things in post that you didn't see when you were recording. So make sure you have some sort of redundancy, and shooting at a higher frame rate and shooting for longer periods of time, those are very solid tips in my opinion, and I think those are going to help you out when you're trying to get the best clips possible. Another shot that I really enjoyed was actually shooting up at some trees in a New Zealand forest. And I was able to capture so many different types of plants as well. So it wasn't just trees, it was moss, it was rocks. And as you can see here, I'm moving up and down, and I'm moving forward or walking forward. With the camera pointed up, believe it or not, you can get some beautiful shots. And this just adds more dimension and just another way to look at footage or a scene. So don't forget, you can always point up, but don't point at the sun because you will damage your sensor. I was under a lot of shade, and if I did see any sun, it was very quick exposure, so I didn't harm the sensor in any way. But if you're using a gimbal, definitely use pitch or tilt to your advantage and just tilt all the way up and add some movement. You would be surprised at what type of footage you can capture. Another great way to capture some awesome footage is to use POV mode or roll mode or inception mode on your gimbals, or you can even handhold it and slow it down in post to make it seem very smooth. This is a great way to just show different objects in a different way. And I used a very close object, which was the train, and as you can see here, as I move forward, I'm using the POV or roll mode on my gimbal, and you can see just a lot more dynamics in the footage, and you feel like you're a part of that movement. And that was my overall goal when I was shooting this video. I wanted you guys to be a part of my adventure, which is why I tried my hardest to get every shot possible. Now that you watched this video, I want to state something very clear. If you're traveling, again, never stop recording. Bring 50 SD cards if that's what it takes, but just don't stop recording. Get as much footage as you can, because who knows, will you ever go visit that place again? You have no idea, so make sure you capture as much footage as possible. Bring a ton of SD cards with you. So that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!